it's making its rounds in the news that last night that she did not make the ballot in Thornton Township last night as secretary. And she was some kind of hot and heated about that situation. But if you aren't aware of who Tiffany Henyard is, girlfriend got some issues. She got into office and lost her mind. Okay, in my opinion. So there are some definite allegations that have been presented since she has been mayor. And secretary. So we're looking at possibly, or at least there has been a lot of discussion on conflict of interest. She's had conflict with trustees. Nobody is really feeling her. She doesn't answer to anybody. She doesn't explain herself to anybody. She's very arrogant. She's very aggressive. She's extremely assertive when it comes to meeting her personal needs and not feeling like she has to answer to the people. She makes her own decisions, and that has yielded some financial mismanagement allegations that really top the list of a lot of different reasons why she was thrown off of the ballot as to be reelected or possibly be reelected for Thornton Township Secretary, right? So she's been criticized for excessive and questionable spending within the Thornton Township, as far as taking trips to Las Vegas, dining at exquisite restaurants, treating many, many other people outside of the jurisdiction of the political arena, and the trustees, not providing any financial lists or explanations as to where this money is going, how much, exceeding budgets, not feeling like, again, she has to explain herself to anybody. Trustees have openly disputed her handling finances of the township, including attempts to limit her spending authority through special meetings. There's a lot of footage of her being in these meetings and just basically telling people that this is what she did and she's not going to be questioned on why she did it. And that's her position on it, and that's where she stands. Her newest, I think it was a couple months ago, her newest challenge when you're talking about financial mismanagement came out and reflected something in her personal life. And she was served eviction papers to her home, or the home that she is renting for her and her boyfriend. So reports have surfaced of Cook County Sheriff's deputies attempting to serve her with an eviction notice, raising questions about her professional and her personal accountability. And this is just a quick and small clip explaining that.
Old Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard has a new crisis on her hands. She's being booted out of her home. Fox 32 has obtained copies of an eviction notice filed in Cook County Court against Henyard and her boyfriend, Kamal Woods. Henyard has been renting a home in the 14600 block of South Harvard for the past 3 years, but the owner of the home told us Henyard and Woods are behind on the rent and owe more than $3,300. The notice also says Henyard has refused to allow an inspection of that property. Now, we reached out to her attorney, who texted back that he believes the story is false and that no rent payment was ever missed.
So she's not believable. She's been caught in several lies, so to speak, untruths, misconceptions, if you will, regarding the budget and the county and the city's money, when she is questioned by the citizens, by the trustees, by the board, now she's being allegedly investigated through, by the FBI. She has really caused some community discontent, and to the point where there are a lot of residents that have expressed and been expressing dissatisfaction with her leadership, citing a lack of transparency. I think that's been a big one. The fact that she just doesn't answer questions. It's like her money. She spends it like it's coming out of her personal bank account or her wallet, and she doesn't owe anyone an explanation. She's got her own little personal piggy bank, and she has been exercising her ability to be able to spend it at will, like a kid in a candy store. Her effective management in both Dalton and Thornton Township. Again, there has been some discontentment amongst the civilians and the residents, stating that they feel a conflict of interest, which is probably one of those reasons why her name was dispelled from the ballot last night for Secretary of Township re-election. And then she had the nerve, after all of that, to really be upset. Now, legally, the caucus that was held last night did leave a lot of her supporters outside, okay? So a caucus is basically the members of a political party that come together and they vote based on elects. So they nominate people that they feel will be best suited for those positions. And it's largely based off of support. So it's like the first initial step to putting their names on the ballots before they become, public to vote, right? So she definitely, if it had been anybody else, I would say, even with her, I'm still got to call it down the middle and say that it was a play. It was something that they orchestrated in order, but that's how desperate they have become to get her out of that position and not put her in a position to be reelected, to cause any more distress upon the financial ruins of the town, right? Of the township, of the jurisdiction that she has had leadership over. At the same time, she is running it into the ground, and she has done it with it, as it seems, with impunity. So there really doesn't seem on the surface to be any, or if a lot, of consequences. And then last night, it was like a victory for the town. And I want to show a small clip of that. And let's go.
And one of Tiffany Henyard's jobs is at risk. The embattled Thornton Township supervisor wanted to run for re-election, but after this rowdy caucus tonight, her name will not be on the ballot.
Our Jermont Terry has been following the South suburban political drama for years now. He is live with what happened and Henyard's emotional reaction. Jermont.
Erica and Joe, Tiffany Henyard likes to tell people, quote, "Let me educate you on how this works." Well, tonight, you can say she was schooled on how the Democratic caucus works right here in Thornton Township. You can also say that she flunked out because her name is not appearing on the ballot. Folks lined up early and in the cold for the Thornton Township Democratic caucus. Everyone outside and those inside the auditorium were here to vote on who will be the Democratic nominees in the township, including the coveted supervisor position. And Tuesday night's caucus left the current supervisor, Tiffany Henyard, fuming.
You didn't run none of this the right way. Illegal. Napoleon.
That's Henyard pleading her case to committeeman State Senator Napoleon Harris. As a committeeman, Harris set the rules Tuesday night, the first caucus in Thornton Township in nearly 30 years.
The person who says this seems to be outdated, you say what to that?
People in Thornton Township may be new to caucuses because they haven't had them in a while, but this has been the tradition for many other townships around the state.
And those in this room came out to see if Henyard would get the nomination, an uphill battle for the controversy surrounding her administration. Henyard was not in favor of the caucus.
I will be suing everybody tomorrow. This is illegal.
This is illegal in your opinion?
Illegal.
Okay. So let's talk about it. I mean, your concern is you brought people in to pre-bus.
All the people outside. They let one person in.
Henyard used Thornton Township buses to transport supporters, mostly seniors. Yet many of the supporters did not get inside the packed auditorium of 600 people.
This is a process that's been going on way before me, and it's just I'm exercising my rights as the committeeman to hold a caucus.
And it is legal. When it was all said and done, the caucus voted, and Henyard did not get the nomination. Yet listen to who the caucus placed on the ballot.
The Democratic slate that would represent Thornton Township at the April 1st consolidated election reads as follows. For Supervisor, Napoleon Harris.
So he got elected, or he got nominated to go on the ballot, right? Now that definitely seems to be a conflict of interest. Mel, I did salute to Mel in the chat, and Double Speaks in the building. We got Rachel in the building. Salute to the chat. Salute to the chat. Yes. So basically, what they did was they exercised the play, in my opinion. So he said, Napoleon, the one that ended up on the ballot, this gentleman on the screen stated that it was his right to hold a caucus, but they were very, they orchestrated the ability to keep her supporters outside while the 600 people inside were for him or for not voting for her or to get her off of the ballot, which seems to be the primary. At this point, they really don't care, in my opinion, who's on the ballot as long as it's not her. So do I agree with their methods on that? I do not. If it's a breach of the political rules and system that are in place for that particular jurisdiction, I don't know what they are. Okay, I don't keep up. It's a very small town in perspective or in the spectrum of most towns that make the news of this magnitude. But she has definitely put Thornton Township on the map based off of either her leadership skills or her lack thereof. However you view it, they were able to keep her supporters outside. Okay, so to answer your question, Mel, the question, if she is duly elected by the people, how can they keep her off the ballot? Depending on who was on the inside, that's just my assumption based off of the news that has been presented to us, right? So you said, so I believe she has supporters, but those supporters were not delegates, and it seems that's why they weren't allowed to vote. I don't know, you're probably at work, but if not, I'm going to drop the link for you because you seem to be a little more informed about this entire process than I am. I am reacting to the news that is out there. However, I am aware enough of the detriment and the chaos that she has just so successfully erupted in this township that they have gone through a lot of measures to prevent her from being in a position to be reelected as secretary in this position one more time. Okay, Mel, I got you. No problem. But it is just definitely one of those situations where it kind of reminds me of the Biden and Trump election back in 2020. There was so many people on the bandwagon to get Trump out of there at all costs. And I'm just speaking as a comparison. And I know there was a lot of different components that we're not talking about or that don't fit the context of this conversation. But what does fit, in my opinion, is that there was such a fervor to get Trump out of office that because Biden was his only opponent, even though people knew about the 1994 crime bill, they knew a lot about his political history. He has been in the political arena actively for over 50 years. There's no secret as to what he thought, what he's had his hand in, what he's participated in, what he has signed off on. There has been hypocrisy throughout that time that a lot of people, especially the older generations, were aware of. They knew one thing and they wanted Trump out. They would deal with Biden once he got in there, right? And so to me, I look at this situation in a similar fashion due to the fact that she has caused so much chaos and disruption in that town or in that area that she has had, some jurisdiction and control over, that they just want her out. And so do I agree that he is a spokesperson of the caucus, and yet and still he's also the one that was put on the ballot? I don't agree with that. It doesn't sound right. But again, I'm not personally versed in if they did anything technically on the books illegally, or were they just dirty about it because they want her out, right? So there is one more while Mel is getting his situation, to the point where he can hit the link. There is one more video and her response to where her people were outside, and this was after she cut a rug and really vocalized herself within the caucus. This is what happened when she came outside.
What happened, Tiffany? What happened? The vote already happened. Who's the slave? Who's the slave? Who's the slave? Who's the slave?
So he's asking who's on the slate. So they're unaware of anything that has transpired on the inside. She's coming out. She's pissed off. She doesn't, she's just saying, look, they did it wrong. It's illegal. Don't worry about it. And so she's in her feels right now, but they want to know, okay, well, you're not on there, so who is, right? That's what he means by who's on the slate. Let's go.
We never got the opportunity. And we've been here.
We won't stand for it.
Tiffany, tell me what happened.
None of y'all vote. The police
Tiffany, tell us what happened. This ain't your
He
crime.
just did an illegal meeting.
Who's the slave?
Okay, so she said, if you didn't hear her, she said they didn't let none of y'all vote and it was illegal. Let's hear that again.
Who's the slave? Tell us what happened. This ain't your crime.
He just did an illegal meeting.
Who's the slave?
Meeting this is not 7 o'clock. How they gonna have the vote and we didn't even come in yet? How did they nominate people if we did not go?
Were y'all in there? Did the nomination happen? Yes.
So the brother said, well, how is it that y'all can nominate anybody when we weren't allowed to come in and vote? So it sounds like the only people that was able to be let in and allowed to vote were those that were not supporters of Tiffany Henyard. Okay. Boy, I tell you, I have to say that the more I'm looking at this, that she was definitely iced out, for lack of a better term. They do not want her, at least a majority don't. And the people that she had bussed in using, taxpayers' dimes, coming in to support her, they all had to stand outside. And it was cold last night. I just want to say that for the record.
Who's the slave? Hey, the media won't tell us who the slave is. Stop them.
What'd you hear, Carol?
What
was the slate?
It was really difficult to hear the slate of candidates over the shouting. But Harris was nominated as supervisor. Chris Gonzalez was nominated as one of the trustees. And honestly, that's all I got right now. It was so incredibly loud in there. Tiffany Henyard was screaming the entire entire time while the proceedings were going on. Harris almost had the sergeant of arms actually remove her from the room, from the caucus, because of her screaming. So that's all I got right now. We'll offer as much as we can as soon as we get the full ticket.
Okay, that's Carol Shawarka from the Lansing Journal. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Aaron.
All right, we get in.
So after, it appears that after the nomination was made, now they're all being let inside, and there are many of them that are going inside to see what is going on, and I probably ask questions and definitely push up on some people that are already on the inside, right? So I'm just here to say, you know, right doesn't beget, or wrong doesn't beget right at times. And I'm not justifying it. I'm not agreeing with it. If that is the way that it happened, the way that it appears, then that was done incorrectly. Despite her history, they elected her. Let's not forget that. They actually brought her on board. They elected her. They brought her into office. And of course, it wasn't long thereafter that they had buyer's remorse. Hey, Mel Dub, thank you for hitting the link. I appreciate you.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Kimi, in the chat. Thank you so much for asking me to come up here. I'll do my best to explain how the caucus works, because there is a difference between a caucus and a primary.
Yes.
You know, caucuses are typically used for small townships like what's happening with her. And did you mention that she holds 2 different positions?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
mayor as well as secretary. Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna explain how they screwed her over, because I had to do some research on it. Basically, what they did was they held this caucus without her knowing about it. And then once they held the caucus, they set a new list of rules that said, this is how they got her. They said, if you are running for 2, you can only run for 1 position at a time if you are running, if you're in this Democrat caucus that they're part of. So they knew she also was the mayor of Dalton, but she's also the supervisor in that township that she's a part of, Thornton Township. So they put in place a rule specifically saying that you cannot run for 2 offices just so they could screw her over. Now, what I was saying with the delegates or the caucus people, rather, was there are certain people that they do allow that can vote and certain people that can't vote. The people that Henyard brought there, they waited to the last minute to make sure that they couldn't verify these people were Democrats, because the only people that could participate in this caucus were Democrat members. So she is no longer the Democrat nominee. Now she can still run for both positions as an independent, but the Democrat Party in Clinton and Thornton Township, the black community that's supposed to be black unity, screwed her over, and that is what happened. And that, I don't like her. I think she spent a lot of money and does a lot of crazy stuff. But if the people elected her, what they did was they just took the hand of deciding the leader of the community out of the hands of the people, and they placed it in this small caucus to force who they wanted to be in there, Mr. Napoleon Dynamite himself. So I'll go on mute, but that's what I have for it.
Well, no, definitely appreciate your input and your information on that. Now, the only thing that I would like to mention is that I did hear one of the newscasters say that she actually couldn't even run as an independent, but that she could only run as a write-in. Does that not sound accurate to you?
Oh, wow. So they really did screw her over. So,
yeah.
So
she couldn't even run as an independent, a Democrat, an independent, and that the only way she would be able to run it all was as a write-in.
So what they did, they probably told her, "Oh yeah, you'll run for the Democrat. You're going to be the Democrat nominee." This is what they probably told her, those caucus people, and they waited until the last minute to hold this caucus. And that way, it's probably past the deadline for her to file papers to run. And they probably did that on purpose to her, because there's a deadline you have to meet before in order to be placed on the ballot. So yeah, if she missed that deadline because she assumed she was going to be the Democrat nominee for the supervisor of supervisory board, or the Democrat nominee for Thornton Township, and she missed that deadline, yeah, the only other option is she's going to have to be a write-in candidate, and she won't get elected that way. Definitely. Wow, they got her. They got her.
That explains why so many titles are stating that she was tossed off the ballot. So they're not using kind lingo when it comes to speaking on her not being able to run for re-election and secretary, to be the Secretary of Township. But the political arena is a dirty game.
I mean, I'm just really disappointed that, yeah, she did some bad stuff to make Thornton Township look bad, but I, as a person who believes in a republic, that we do operate under, I do believe that if the people want her as their governance, that they should have the right to have her as their governance without this party sabotaging her ability to run for re-election. In a lot of ways, she should feel the alignment of Donald Trump more than anyone else to see what it's like to try for people to organize and actively pursue screwing you out of a position because they don't like you, not because so hey, here's to her. She did it the wrong way, but that shows how corrupt those people are overall in that township. And if I lived there, I would move away because I wouldn't want none of them representing me.
I agree with that. Absolutely. Especially when you go through those types of links and measures to definitely. And again, you and myself have mentioned that they elected her. They placed her into that position, not just as township secretary, but as mayor of Dalton as well. So you can't get into either one of those positions without being elected, or at least it should be that way. At least, like you said, that is our republic, how the due process of our republic and how it should operate. However, but if when you start graying the area, when you bend or you start to try to circumvent the process and the system that is in place, that has worked, that has been consistent, whether you like the outcome or you don't, at least you've been able to rely on that process, on that due diligence of getting somebody into or electing somebody into office. So definitely, I'm with you. I don't want no parts of that.
Well, here's what's going to happen with her anyways. She's going to either end up, and this is going to be the truth, she's going to end up on The View probably. She's going to either run for a federal office, such as a House of Representative position, and get elected, or something of that nature, because she is a Black woman. And right now there's a grievance of guilt between white progressives overall to embolden or enable that particular demographic. So she's going to be fine. She's going to be fine. But somehow or another, they're going to try to shift the blame on somebody else and not on the crooked way that they ousted her from this role and this position as a supervisor in their township. And it's telling to me of how crooked some of these politicians have been, and they don't care about the community. They only care about being a person in power. And she's one of them, but she met her match with Napoleon Dynamite. That's what I'm gonna call him, Napoleon Dynamite.
I agree with that. And I feel conflicted because I'm going to be honest and transparent and say there's a part of me that's saying good for her. Now she's getting a little bit of what she has dished out, but to what price? To what extent does it jeopardize the future elections, the future due process? And we have no idea from the outside looking in if he's actually going to be a better candidate.
Yeah, and see what's conflicting to me is, if I heard correctly, he's a state senator. And so why would a state senator leave that post of a state post to go work and operate in a local jurisdiction? What money games are they playing back there? What come up can you get by being the supervisor in Thornton Township? And I would like to see the people who before Tiffany Henyard, what did they get? How did they live? Because if they were living lavish or if they were doing something, that means that people realize they can get a come up or some type of play off of that position. So, I don't know. I don't have anything else for it, but it's, if I was in Thornton Township, and I don't care who it is, I'm moving to, Muskogee, Alabama, or somewhere out of there. So Kalamazoo, Michigan. So
as far away from that situation as you can, right?
Anchorage, Alaska. I wouldn't even tell nobody I'm from Illinois. I wouldn't tell nobody I was from Illinois after that. So, all right, Mr. Kimmy, I'm gonna drop back down.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming up. Thank you so much for your addition and input to the conversation, Mel. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right, sister. Take care.
Okay, you too. Wow. So there you have it, people. That is pretty much what I have for today. I appreciate everybody that has come through, that has, sat and listened for a bit. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm very grateful to all of you. Thanks to my mods, to everybody that typed in the chat. At the end of the day, my conclusion, when it comes to Tiffany Henyard, her tenure has definitely been blemished, in my opinion, by controversies when it comes to financial management, to governance disputes, her ability to juggle, several roles. It's just, there's a lot of different components that definitely doesn't surprise me when it comes to the actions of last night and the links that some people will go to in order to displace her and to get her out of there for new leadership opportunities. However, again, when we're in a republic or we are in a democracy, there are systems in place, there are laws, there's legislation. And when you bend that or you circumvent that, then you just open up the door for more of that to happen in the future. And it definitely, it bases a mistrust, or it places a mistrust in the people. And that's how you get elected, is from supposedly the people, right? I just wanted to come and do a live and kind of shed light and give my perspective on this topic, on these topics, right? And so with that being said, I'm not going to do a long conclusion. I appreciate y'all, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, everybody. And if you're coming in late, please feel free to catch the replay. I appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful day. Peace.